We're live or Memorex?
And we're live. There we
We are
go.
live.
Started a couple minutes early when we were starting a couple minutes early. Welcome to the show, everybody.
Going on tonight. Got stuff going on.
Not much. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the future of ham radio. But before we do that, we want to cover a couple things. We were originally going to do a show on DMR tonight, and Jim woke up this morning with a tummy ache. And so he called out sick. So our thoughts and our prayers are with him and his family in these trying times. And hopefully he's watching, but maybe he's on his deathbed. We don't know.
My thoughts and prayers are with the doctor that has to look over him tonight. You know,
can you imagine? He's everything that doctor does. He's probably telling him he's doing it wrong.
Yep, being the old paramagic that he is.
Right. I rode the bus, boy.
I got the magic hands.
Right, I've got a flex radio and I rode the bus.
He did ride the bus. Oh, ouch, James! What are you talking about? We're just having fun.
Hey, James. Hey, 45.
45 is here too, huh?
Yeah, really is.
DJT, he's here.
What do you got going on over there, Chuck? You got anything exciting?
You know, I got to visit with my buddy who was my captain in the fire department for a long time, who passed away of a brain tumor, probably from something. There's a couple of guys that unfortunately all went to the same fires, and these guys all kind of end up with the same thing. But his daughter and my son and my daughter, they all grew up together. He lived across the street for a while, and so she's like a second daughter, just kind of like almost like my daughter.
Right.
I coached her in soccer for years and stuff, and she came over today, and we haven't seen each other for a couple of years now. It's been a while. She's moved up north, and had a nice visit today. And then I've been playing. I've been playing with print and stuff. Look at all.
Oh, you're always doing that.
Look at these bad boys, all ready to go, all ready to get built.
So would you just print that as one big piece and then snap them off or something?
No, I just got them all sitting together.
All right.
I was lucky they didn't all fall over the place, to tell you the truth.
Right, just now in your hand. That would have been good for a short.
Got some of the bottoms. I'm changing a few things. All the bottoms are going to be black from now on. I think you were the one that told me to maybe do that, just to kind of keep the color stuff down.
Well, what it'll do, I think, is maybe streamline production just a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Make it a little bit easier.
Yeah, but so I've been doing that, building stuff.
I got sent that Yagi, that 2-meter Yagi that you did the build video on. And so I got to go back and rewatch your video, because I think you were saying there's something about when you put the elements on that some people were putting them on backwards or the wrong direction or something like that.
Well, somebody mentioned in the comments that it might go from the other direction for what I put it on. It doesn't. Did you get instructions with yours? I don't think I
did not see any instructions in the box.
So, I mean, it worked. It worked fine the way I did it, but it might be better the other way. I haven't actually. I was thinking about I'm going camping this weekend, and we are going to have some like family radio stuff. So I might be able to hook it up, and maybe when the guys are out on the boat, I can talk to them a little farther away or something. I might.
Well, the box says it's good on 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and GMRS, and so I don't know how that could be unless you can tune.
Oh, wait a minute! It's only it was only 70. I tried to talk to them about that. I go, so you're sending me 2 antennas, and they're like, no, we're sending you 1. I'm like, pretty sure it's only good for 70.
Well, they sent me 2 Yagis.
They sent you 2?
They did. And they both look exactly the same. I don't know what the difference is, so I'll have to.
Is one of them maybe one of them is 2 meter? They had a 2 meter one also.
Oh no! It was 2 different boxes, and they both said 2 meters, 70 centimeters, and GMRS, but they have 2 different model numbers on there. But they look like the same.
They do have a 2 meter, 70 centimeter Yagi.
But that one's like this. It's cross polarized, right? Like this one looks.
I think so.
Just like the other one.
But it's more elements too. I think 70 was like 5, and then I think 2 meter was 3. I think it's usually the way it goes.
I got to take a look at it. This one's a 3 element. So we'll see what I put together. Then I published a video today on this baby.
That's what you're saying.
And I've showed this before, but it had an antenna coming out of it before, and it's a field strength meter. And I got this like 6 months ago for the purpose of building a. You can see this little bead on the top, a common mode current meter, And the reason I didn't build it from scratch is that it already has a case, right? And it already
Right.
comes with
Right.
the meter. And so it only cost $21. And so, case would have cost me $5-10, right? A meter would have cost me
Mhm.
$5-10. And it already had all the circuitry in there. So it was pretty easy build. And I had been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off. And one of my Patreon folks was saying, "Hey, can you do that video, bro? I'm getting tired of waiting." And so I said, "All right, all right." So I started working on it a couple days ago.
Gotcha. Yeah, you showed me a picture of it the other day, and I
It's right
I
line.
was I was I was kind of I wasn't I didn't really realize what you had.
But you wasn't paying attention, son.
Well, I thought it was something else when
Well,
you said it.
like I said, we were going to do a show on DMR, and then we switched it up because that's Jim's topic. I think he would get upset if we did it.
He is the
So
DMR guy.
let me go ahead and put this on here. And today we're going to talk a little bit about the future of ham radio. Basically, just kind of like a 5-year outlook. Like you hear all these people who do the clickbait thing and say, "Ham radio's dying. What's killing
Hmm.
ham radio?" and all that whiny stuff. And
Right.
I,
Just
I think we want to take a positive outlook. This is a hobby that we like. We love it. We spend a lot of time. Hey, Hank. Um, we like amateur radio. And we want to be positive and talk about some of the cool things that's going on. The other one is a lot of people like to say that there's no innovation in amateur radio, and it does seem at times like some innovation is slow. But if you look at where amateur radio was 20 years ago and you look at it today, it's a vastly different hobby.
oh,
And
look at the radios today compared to 10 years ago
10 years
or
ago, right,
50, yeah,
right.
10 years ago actually, yeah, because I started about 10 years ago, and the 7300 started a revolution kind of in radios,
Yeah,
or
so
how they're made now.
yeah, there's tons of stuff. So we're going to go through it in this couple of slides, and we're going to talk a little bit about it. But the first thing I have in there is rapid technological evolution. Ham radio is undergoing a transformation driven by software-defined radios, AI
Mhm.
enhanced operations, and digital integration. And a lot of folks will be like, "Oh, we've been doing digital forever," but the growth of digital modes on, like, if you take a look at the number of contacts made and logged to QRZ
Mhm.
versus to look at the different modes, FT8 kills it. And everybody's like, "Oh, well, that's because it's so fast, it's so easy." But CW is fast and easy, right?
Well, CDEP is fast. Yeah, the easy part depends.
Well, okay. When I say easy, I mean
Easy to make
lightweight,
contact.
low bandwidth, far
Right.
signal propagation with low power, right?
Right.
Um, And then I had some
Yeah.
stuff around new challenges and opportunities, and we do have a growing community of hams. I think the licensing are up, but a lot of hams are older, and a lot of hams are taking a trip to the other side of the bridge, and there's a lot of knowledge that's being lost there because a lot of folks are just kind of disrespectful to older hams and won't listen to what they have to say. But at this
Some of the YouTube community is actually.
Yeah, and then, the other thing is that, you do have a lot of kids that are coming into it through the maker space, which is pretty cool, and then we're seeing, like, this injection of all these things, like, you see a lot of Raspberry Pi controlled radios, like, I'll just show you real quick. I mean, you got one, but the
I
the
got one.
ZBitX, right, and the SBitX
Mhm.
platforms with, this has a Pi Pico and a Pi Zero in it. You're seeing a lot of folks using things like the Arduinos and, those boards that they use for the Meshtastic and stuff like that. So there's a lot of crossover there, and that's a technology injection. And what's kind of crazy is that you have a lot of people actually building their own stuff again, like amateur radio was,
Yeah,
25,
the old days.
50, 75 years ago.
Right.
Not everybody's just an off the shelf appliance operator. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but you're seeing kind of more hobbyists actually building and making things. Lots of kits out there like the
Mhm.
QMX and I think it was a QDX, QMX, and the QSX, I think are the different ones.
Yeah, and kits like that are kind of good for the community before, it's fun to make your own stuff, but you actually probably are learning when you're making those also. So it's kind of bringing back what you were talking about in the old days when hams had to build their own radios, right? Or not have a radio,
Yeah, I
right?
look in like I collect the ARRL handbooks, and I'll look in like a handbook from like the 70s, and it tells you how to build an SWR meter, for example. And when you look into the new handbook, it says, "Oh, well, you can get a SWR meter at from MFJ,"
Right.
and
Right.
it's handy to be able to go out and buy stuff and get that instant gratification, but it's also kind of cool to build your own gear
It's just like
and
building
stuff.
your own antenna, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
That's something we've been pushing
100%.
for a long time.
And it's not that I wouldn't buy a commercial antenna, but I would be hard pressed to do it. I mean, it'd have to be something special about it versus just building an antenna. It's
Mhm.
I just kind of like building antennas, I guess.
Well, I have a 6-meter antenna. I built that one. Yagi. I should say Yagi. It's a 5 or 6 element Yagi, 5 element, I think. And that was a lot of fun. And when it gets done and I make a contact to South Carolina on the dang thing on 100 watts, that's not too shabby.
Hmm. And then I got vision for 2030, and I think we're going to see increased digitalization. I think we're going to see more and more digital on HF. I know some folks have talked about seeing System Fusion. I don't know about a D Star on HF. And then you have the
Hmm.
VARA stuff, and then what did Joe Brett, was that VARA that that wasn't that he did digital HF? He did the speech on at Dayton.
I forget.
I can't remember what it was,
Well,
but
there's around here that we have if you have like I guess the new radio from Yaesu and the 991 does they'll do the digital on HF on 10. A lot of guys do 10 meters.
yeah,
You got to
free
watch which
DV.
band you're, yeah. You got to
Thanks,
you
Hurst.
kind of got to watch which bands you're on because not all bands are good for digital, I don't think. But
But then I think that you're going to see, like I said, increased digitalization, remote access. I think is going to become a bigger and bigger thing. That is something that people want more and more in their radios. When radios come out, they're like, "Hey, how can I remote control this radio?" Folks want to be
Mhm.
able to remote control the radio and do HF from the road. I think you're going to see hybrid communication models. You're going to see more internet linking of repeaters. You see a lot of people doing All Star and All
Mhm.
Star Link. I think you're going to see more and more digital modes in HTs. And I'm such a so spacey today that MJ17 is that new protocol that folks are putting out for folks to do digital digital UHF and VHF.
I don't know. I haven't heard of
And
it.
then I put RF and IP. When you see things like Arden Networks and even Meshtastic, I think you're going to see more and more of that kind of stuff. Oh, it's M17. Thanks, Adham. Don wants to bring back the receive only antenna. Probably not a bad idea. Let me go ahead and move the slide. And so I think I have hybridization with the internet. I think you're going to see more and more dominance with the digital modes. Like we're seeing right now is that I just saw the other day saw a kit that is a kit build for an FT8 only radio.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then the thing is like this this ZBit X has
Mhm.
built-in FT8, so I can just take this out and sit down and do my FT8. I put JSA
I
call in there, but I
I
don't think
tried it one
JSA
day.
call is really popular. Yeah, how did it work out for you?
I was able to work it, but I didn't make any contacts, and Jim didn't see me that day. I was seeing Jim, but also you have to. One of the things they said it's important. You have to hook it up
Sync the
to
time
like
on
the
it.
internet and sync the time on it. So I probably wasn't synced. So
That's
I'm
probably what
probably
it was.
that probably was part of my problem. And then I think after that, other than that, but it was pretty easy. And I'm not, that's not 58 is not my thing to start with, but it's pretty cool that you can do that and not have anything else. I mean, no computer, no nothing.
Yeah, it's definitely cool. I put JSA call in there, but I don't know how many people are using that. I know that there's people who use it and love it, but I don't think I know very many people who talk about doing JSA call. But then
So
you have VARA.
the Arden thing, not for Mistastic, but for something. Somehow I'm on an email chain for that stuff, and I don't know how I got on it. I probably just got invited because they knew
I
who I
signed you up.
was or something. But did you sign me up? Because I haven't been to any of their meetings yet, but maybe I will stop in one day and check it out. I don't know much about it, so I think that's more like isn't that like what was the other one you talked about earlier?
Laura
The,
Wayne, Arden, and Mesh
well,
Tasking.
well, isn't it kind of like the stuff that um, what's the other one that where you link your HTs together with?
Oh,
What was
All
that one?
Star.
Isn't it kind of like All Star?
Well, the thing about All Star is that I guess it does distributed routing. I don't really know, but like things like Arden and Laura Meshtastic are distributed networking so that you can
Mm.
have nodes come on and off all the time and it doesn't mess up the topography.
I know Don's into that stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of that stuff.
He actually just hit me up on Discord, but I don't know if I'll take a look at it and see what's up. So we talked a little bit about mesh networks and emergency comms, but actually, we talked to that guy the other day, Meshtastic Dave, and he was saying that his MCOM group is going to doing all of their check-ins instead of wasting time talking on the HT, one at a time doing their check-ins. They just check everything in on Meshtastic and then pass any real traffic that they need over the radio, which is kind of cool. And then have cloud connected operations like remote rig control, SDR stuff, online logbooks. And so it's interesting. I think I talk about it later in the slide deck, but I heard this thing where they were talking about using the AI to actually log your contacts. So AI would listen to you, and then it would make a log of all of your contacts and timestamp it for you that you could just upload, or it would even some AIs could potentially upload it for you anyway, which I thought would be pretty pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it would be.
I keep hitting my space bar like I'm doing a presentation at work. So I thought this was pretty neat. Talk more about AI assisted operating and signal processing. So AI enhanced DSP, and this was a screen cap from RM Noise, which is a piece of software that you can use where you take your signal, feed it into your computer. The computer relies on AI in the cloud, but does it have to in the future? I don't know. And basically what it does is it removes the noise. So you can take like a S2, S3 signal and hear it at an S9, for example. It's pretty cool. And there's already things like adaptive pre-distortion that clean up your signal, but I think that you're going to see
Oh,
more and more of that.
have you ever seen those guys running the pre-distortion stuff?
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's like solid wall on both sides. There's nothing
Yeah.
outside of those walls. It's amazing how clean those guys. And I was a little upset one time. I was getting some guys here close to me, but I think the reason they were like kind of spread out farther than I don't think they were wide. I think they were just so close that they were like oversaturating out the outside edges,
Mhm.
because the guy's like in Sacramento, which is only like 180 miles from here, something like that.
Well, when you look at people's signals, I mean, you see a lot of stuff that's spanning beyond and
Right.
splattering out. And I don't think it's all old equipment either. I think it's just some folks overdriving, overmodulating.
And it could be overdriving their amps and stuff too. Because I know the guy that I'm talking about he's running an amp now, and I'm wondering if that's the reason. But he is close to me, so I don't know if that's the reason why he's so wide. Because I know he's not running wide. I don't think.
Yeah,
There are
but
guys that do, but
I think you're going to see more and more clean signals, and then using things like RM Noise is like really the first readily available system that would do the AI assisted signal processing. So there's always the first one, right? But then other people start jumping on that train, and right, mind your ALC. I think you're going to see more and more of this stuff in the coming years. And this is all advancements in amateur radio. Now, is it all coming out from one vendor? No. Is it coming out from the big three vendors? No. But that's one of the things about amateur radio is it's always been a community driven service / hobby, where different people contribute, and then we build ideas upon other things that other people did. And I think that that's kind of a cool thing.
Right.
Then I have smart SDR features like adaptive filtering. I think we covered that, beamforming. I was thinking, like if radios had the ability to maybe adjust your antenna for you. So like if you think about like how like some of those antennas like the Step IR could automatically tune like from band to band and stuff like that. What if you had directional antennas that could actually adjust their beam, right? So I don't know how possible it is, but like you look at beam width where you have the 3 dB roll off on your far field plots.
Mhm.
What if you could manipulate that somehow via software right from your radio, right? So that you could cut out more not interference, but interfering noises, right? So you would receive
Mhm.
less if you could narrow your beam or widen your beam depending upon what you were trying to do.
Right.
I think it's pretty cool. And then let's see what we got here on the next one. So I think that we're also due for some antenna and RF innovation. And the first thing I had on here was advanced materials, use of metamaterials and fractals to create compact, efficient antennas with unique propagation patterns. And Hamjazz did like a fractal type antenna where he was using the tape, which I get that the tape is not the best conductor, right? But he was
Mhm.
making these little squares with the tape so he could get more antenna on the tarp that he was making the antenna on. And they do that on circuit boards, and I think it's called like a Fibonacci formula that gives you the best ratio of the different turns. So it basically looks like a meandering stream. And I think that even in some antennas design, they call it meandering, where you kind of get real loopy at the end.
Mhm.
And the thing is that can you actually make decent HF antennas smaller by doing this kind of thing?
Right.
And then does everything have to be aluminum, steel, and copper, or are there better, stronger, lighter, more conductive materials? Maybe it's less conductive, but I'd compromise if I could get an 80-meter dipole up.
Well, there were some guys doing antennas where they hung the wire antenna, I think, off of a string, off a rope or something, right? And they were
Mhm,
taking the element and dropping it down in like little V's
mhm,
all the way down. So physically, it was shorter, but the wire was still long. And I'm
right.
sure you lose a little bit of length, but they were shrinking the size of the antenna down by quite a bit. And you could, like kind of like linear loading, you can make a shorter antenna by loading it like they do. It was the Cobra. The Cobra does that. I think it was the Cobra. It's that doublet that they make.
Yeah, the Cobra does do that. Liberty Cave is always so positive. He says, "In 5 years will be the post-nuclear war world. Your radio will be outlawed." He might be right. And then
That
we got
could
Wild
happen.
Bill. If a solar panel truck can track the sun on its own, why can't y'all Yagi hone a signal on its own? Exactly. It's exactly what
Right.
we're talking about. And then somewhere I saw Hollywood. What's happening in Hollywood? So we talked about advanced materials and then stealth and portable designs. Um every antenna is now, this is the HOA buster. This is the stealth HOA secret
Right.
signal stick. And we see more and more people do more and more portable. It's actually kind of cool how much of the hobby has embraced the portable operations and how many people are doing it. So,
Mhm.
and both of those, HOA and portable, have their own antenna unique characteristics. I mean, HOA has to be low profile, easily concealable. Portable folks definitely want something high speed, low drag, and light, even though most of the time they
Mhm.
just throw it in their minivan, drive to the park, get out and carry it 10 feet to a picnic table. They still want to have that tactical operator, high speed, low drag feel.
Right.
Some folks hike around and carry stuff in distances. So they do want small and lightweight. So I think that that's going to continue
You might
to
be breaking
drive
up. I
some.
don't.
What's that?
You might have broke up there. You might want to repeat that. I didn't hear you.
Oh, what was I saying? You can't tell me what I was saying. I don't know what to repeat.
I can't tell you what you're saying because I didn't hear it.
Oh, well, I was kind of making fun of people saying that they ever want to be a high speed, low drag operator and they want lightweight stuff.
Right.
But there is a need for that in portable operations, and
Mhm.
so it like I don't know, 10 years ago, this would have been considered a portable antenna. You know what I mean? Like this thing probably
Right.
weighs 3 pounds, and this is some heavy, thick ass wire. You know, this whole thing together is probably 5 pounds. Now, would I throw
And
this in the
now
back of the
and
van? Sure.
and now this is a portable antenna by Chuck. Super
Right.
small.
And so that's all forms of innovations. And when people build and design all these different antennas, we Broken Signal heard me just fine. He said, maybe your problem. You're the problem, Chuck. But
Maybe.
it all adds to the overall collective of antennas and the way antennas are designed and built. Look at the explosion of end-fed half waves, over the last
Mhm.
5 years. It seems like everybody's
Yeah.
got an end-fed half wave kit now.
The old half antenna.
That's right. And then experimentation and modeling. So tools like EasyNeck, which just became freely available. Amonagale's freely available. I was using one that was free the other day. I think it was called Cocoa. That's what it is. Cocoa on Mac. And I think there's some Linux tools out there, but more and more folks are actually designing antennas to understand propagation patterns and those characteristics. And again, that adds to the collective hive of knowledge. Let's see what we got here. The other thing is that we see evolving licensing and regulation here in the United States. They wanted to expand. There was a proposal to expand access on HF bands to technicians. Like, technicians should be able to do FT8 across the entire HF spectrum. People worry that that's going to prohibit people from going all the way to extra, right? And then they won't have as many extras out there as a percentage of the population. But I think that if you get a taste for that and you get into it, you maybe might be less likely to walk away from the hobby too. That's right. That's right, Hollywood. I'd be all for that. As a matter of fact, I want to see something below the technician where people can pay $120 and maybe get like a 2-year, 3-year, 5-year license that allows them to operate on a channelized portion of 2 meters and 70 centimeters. And then we sell those radios in blister packs at Walmart. You know, I was saying that years ago before the GMRS craze. And that's exactly what GMRS is. Why wouldn't they have a similar model in amateur radio?
Right.
Spectrum defense pressures, hams face increasing need to defend bands like 2 meters and 23 centimeters from commercial reallocation. That's a problem. And I'd hate to see us lose any of that spectrum, but that's definitely a problem.
It keeps happening, huh?
Yeah. Well, the other thing is I did a video about a week ago and I was talking about this hands-free driving law that got passed in Pennsylvania. And they were saying that even if you're sitting at a red light and you pick up your phone and you text somebody, you could get a ticket for that. And it's like, how would you catch somebody doing that? And without having a cop standing there on every corner. And I was thinking about red light cameras and stuff like that. They have the ability to have cameras at the intersections, not taking your picture and somebody checking them, but taking your picture or taking a video and have an AI monitor that. And then AI could report back that this person was doing something they shouldn't do. You know, when you talk about police state, they do that in countries already, like I think China, Hong Kong, and maybe parts of Russia. I don't know. But what about using AI to monitor the amateur radio bands, right, and deal away with the ham police that listen there and be like, I heard you transmitting too close to the spectrum, man. But you know, could they do that to reduce maybe people who are doing interference? And the other thing is like I believe like a lot of these HTs when you transmit them, they have an ANI number. I think it's what it's called, an ANI number. That's actually a unique number that gets transmitted with your radio that can be intercepted and decoded. And what if that actually got baked into people's radios? It would allow folks to actually have a digital identification when operating HF.
Well, that was like when APRS first started coming out. People, you know, like I don't want everybody knowing where I'm at, you know, stuff like that.
Right. So why would you use it? Because it's exactly for that.
Exactly.
I don't know. It's just something to think about. But I do think you're going to see continued evolution in licensing. I think a lot of the other countries are changing some of their licensing models as well to give more privileges to entry-level hams. Like in the U.S., it's unique that an entry-level ham can get 1,500 watts, but can't transmit FT8 on 20 meters. So
right.
Frank's DMing me. Frank, I'll have to catch up with you later, bro. I'm in the middle of something, son. For God's sake, can't it wait? Damn it!
What's he DMing you about?
Oh, I don't know. It's something about he's like, hey, did you guys start early? We did start early today.
Yeah, we had somebody that's got going over top of us tonight.
So we're trying to wrap up. Trying to wrap up early so we don't interfere with.
We don't want to mess it. Yeah, we don't want to mess up their since we've only been doing this for 4 or 5 years at this time.
Right.
It's kind of new to some people.
youth engagement through maker culture and STEM. And we talked a little bit about this earlier, but things like FPGA kits, DIY satellite projects, satellite and the balloon stuff has gotten really popular,
Hmm.
especially with
It
kids.
has.
LAR and IoT systems, Internet of Things systems, engage students in radio fundamentals. And like when I was a kid, there was nothing like that. And we never talked about, I think that like when I was a kid, I built like an AM crystal radio set that didn't work. But outside of that, I had a walkie-talkie and I watched Dukes of Hazzard and Smokey and the Bandits. I knew about CB, but radio technology was not something that was part of my everyday life like it is now. Like kids grow
No,
up
not mine.
understanding it.
I wish I'd got into the ham. I did CB like you did in high school and all that stuff, and I wish I'd gone. I wish I'd met somebody sooner that did ham. Like my buddy Gary. I wish I'd been able to talk to that guy sooner and got into it sooner.
Well, I think part of it's an image problem. Like I tell a story all the time. Like they when I was in high school, there were hams and
Hmm.
there were CB guys, and there was no cell phone, so it's like a lot of people were using radio then to be able to communicate with their buddies.
Right.
And I was like, the guys who are in the CB are going to bonfires. They have hot chicks hanging around them. They're drinking beer, having fun. Going wheeling and mudding with the trucks. And the ham guys are sitting there playing Dungeons and Dragons, and there's no chicks. You know what I mean? And I was like, it's a real easy decision to decide which crowd you want to hang out with. I'm not making fun of ham people. I'm just being honest about it.
Yeah, this
Oh,
is something else here too. At Liberty's talking, good electronics program would have been. Look back, I wish
yeah.
I'd paid more attention in the little bit of electronic stuff that I had.
Yeah. Oh, I wanted to. So there was a Google Cloud outage today. It caused havoc for me at work. But the thing is that we didn't know who was going to do the show tonight, right? So, like I said, this morning, Jim got up with his tummy ache, and then he was saying, "Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do the show or not." And
Hmm.
I was supposed to go to a client dinner tonight, and so I didn't know if I was going to be able to do the show or not. So once Jim confirmed he wasn't doing the show, and I confirmed I was, we had to pull down the DMR show, but StreamYard was down.
Yeah.
So like you couldn't log into StreamYard. And I was like, and I asked these guys, "Is StreamYard down?" So I went to Down Detector and I went to Is Down. Saw StreamYard was reporting down based off of using Google Cloud services. So I started tracking it. So I
Oh,
couldn't fix and repost the show until like an hour and a half, 2 hours before we actually went.
right. And
Yeah.
we
So,
decided to
so
go a little early, so we couldn't really get that out too soon. I did
yeah, man.
Twitter it out or exit out yesterday, but I was told yesterday that my X account was canceled because I had been doing scrupulous things, but it was fake.
Yeah, somebody was trying to trick you. They're like, click here,
Hmm. Click here and
enter
put your social
password to get it
security and all
fixed.
that stuff in. Yeah.
Yeah, I never click on any of that stuff. Um, so we talked about STEM integration, school clubs and programs. You see stuff like Good Games doing with the league and the learning network. But you're seeing more and more schools actually teaching stuff about radio for different things. Like I think CubeSat was something that was pretty big with kids. Um, and then you're seeing more and more people talk about emergency preparedness, which is something that will actually propagate in schools as well. And then we have this thing called community driven learning, right? So you have all these hams posting videos on YouTube. About 10% of them are worth watching. I'm just kidding. And then you have Discord communities where folks argue about which radio is better, but there's good content there where people talk about technological advancements, using new technology, using new tools, training and helping each other learn and grow, which is really cool.
Hmm.
What it's all about. And you still have traditional Elmering. And the thing is that there's actually global mentorship now. You can actually using things like the internet, talk to and communicate and share video, text, documents, images with people all over the world. So now your Elmer doesn't have to be the guy down the street. It can be anybody that you meet.
Well, my Elmer was like off the internet. It was
That's right. Yeah, it's how you met Gary,
online.
right? On the CB Club, the
I met
online
Gary
CB
there.
Club.
It was a C. Well, it was the only place I've seen where CB guys and ham guys actually got along, and for the most part, outside of the two guys that make antennas that sell to the military, they didn't get along very well.
Well, I can tell you, there's a lot of hams on 11 meters these days.
Yeah.
I don't understand that elitism attitude where people are like, well, this isn't like the chicken band. I don't operate on 11 meters. I'm actually licensed by the FCC. It's like, so you passed a 35 question multiple choice test and it makes you better than other people.
that they gave you all the answers for
Right. I just
ahead
don't
of time.
understand. I just don't understand that elitism. I mean, I think it's cool when people do things with RF
Yeah.
regardless of mode. Right. I mean, it's just, go out there and have fun and do your thing. And I got to tell you, CBers have a lot of fun. And I've seen a lot of them that are pretty technically astute, more so than a lot of hams that I've encountered in my life.
I went to one of the shootouts one time. They
Yeah,
had
that's awesome.
it was up kind of up in the mountains for me, about
Mhm.
an hour or so away from here, and that was pretty cool watching those guys. I mean, I was only on the end where the guys were shooting their signal out, but I forget which guy won. They were some pretty like phased antennas, you know, on the top of their vehicles. So
Well, my buddy Ziggy, he sent me a video where this guy he builds and sells amps, and
mhm,
this guy was pushing 18,000, not 1,800,
right.
18,000 watts. Um, now you're not supposed to do that, right? And I'm
The
not
only
advocating that, but that's pretty damn cool.
the only bad thing in the CBs is CB stuff has not really moved on. It's I had a guy that used to repair stuff, and he says a lot of the new stuff was just not very good compared. I mean, a lot of guys say that about a lot of things. You know, the old stuff was way better,
Right, them old
but
19s, boy, them old
but
Cobra 19s.
I mean, there has been some movement in the CB, and they're talking about doing FM. I mean, I guess that's in Europe and stuff. You can do FM. I don't know if they ever legalized that here, but I'm sure guys are doing it anyhow. I mean,
You can do FM in North America now. They're doing people are doing FT8 on 11 meters.
I heard that, but but the radios didn't really. They haven't been upgraded much from what he was saying.
Well, so the thing is like if you want to buy a high end radio in amateur radio, you're looking at like $5,000 for entry level contesting HF rig, and that's with solid state or traditional components, or you can get an SDR. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's still around the same price. If you wanted a nice SDR CB, it's going to cost you more than $200, which is what the average price of an entry level CB is, right? So I think that's
Right.
part of the problem.
I got the Cobra. What's the SSB one? The 149, and this thing is like totally tricked out. The guy that I was telling you that was working
Yeah.
used to work on them. It does everything, and it's super confusing because you have to switch this switch up, this switch down to get
Yeah.
this part of the frequency and stuff. But
It
he did a AM
it isn't
modulation.
Marvin, but they do it anyway.
He did a an AM modulation thing, and he was telling me, Chuck, he goes, that $18 microphone that you buy off of Amazon for your Cobra, he goes, it's perfect for this. He goes, with my modulation kit that I put in it, he goes, people won't believe they'll think you're on like a quality microphone. So
I'd love one of
I
those.
got good reports. I got good reports on it.
Well, shit, what was it? There's something I was going to say about. Oh, the thing is, a lot of hams are using the ICOM
Hmm.
7300 free banded
Mm,
on there, and I can tell you another radio that a lot of CBers like is the G90 because it's easily moddable. You get 20 watts. So we're really taking a left turn on this stream, but this is fine. A lot of CBers need more than the 5 watts that a traditional CB puts out to drive
need
their
that
big amp,
swing,
right?
right?
So they want to get
Or
that
you
thing
have to have a
swinging,
preamp,
right? So they usually will
preamps.
drive like a 2 pill, and they'll use that 2 pill to drive like a 6 or something like that, a 6 or a 4
Hmm.
pill to really get a lot of watts out of it. And the fact that the G90 can put out that extra 20 watts, it's a lot more than just than the 5 watts that you would get out of a traditional CB
Right.
plus. It's got some filtering capabilities on there that are a little bit more dynamic than some of the stuff you get on CB plus. It does have
Sometimes it's not
adapter.
good for AM though. Sometimes they're not very
Yeah.
ham radios are not very good on AM sometimes. The quality of the audio.
but
And
but
that
but
goes
The G90 is popular with CBers, and so is the 7300. I can tell you that.
It sounds like you know a little bit about that.
Listen. I'm not a closet CBer. I know you say that all the time, but it's not.
You are too.
No, not
You got a
me.
CB you got a CB in your Jeep?
I don't right now. No, I don't.
I took the one out of my motorhome recently too because I don't know anybody else that has one. So
You damn right it is, LC.
oh, my old Kenwood that I gave away was modded, and that thing was nice on the free bands.
Challenge is still ahead. So there are some barriers to growth and retention. So we did talk a little bit earlier about the aging operator base. The average ham age is over 60. And we have declining voice traffic, and club participation is older. And this is something that's actually kind of sad. But like I was talking about on one of the shows, is my local club, they have their monthly meeting like Tuesday morning. And Tuesday morning, I'm at work, and everybody my age is at working, and we can't stop and go to the Golden Corral and hang out at the Golden Corral. So the very nature of the club meeting is non-inclusive because it's not at a time where everybody can attend. And I think that that's a problem with clubs across the United States.
Where's UTV and ham going, man?
I didn't see you.
See you, man. 73, dude.
Later, bro.
He just posted.
I saw.
Yeah, now I went to a couple meetings around here with a buddy of mine. I don't know if he even goes that often, but theirs was like on a Thursday night or something like that. It was after people were back from work. Most people were home from work. I guess not everybody. There's different hours for people, but at least it was, so people that worked could actually make it to it. It wasn't at the Golden Corral. We don't have we don't have many Golden Corrals around here, so
yeah. Well, like most of the clubs around
here,
don't have a clubhouse, I guess is the right way to say it.
Right.
Some of them do, some of them don't. Some of them do have meetings at regular hours, and some. But the one that I was looking to join, it only met at the damn Golden Corral once a month.
I think this place, if I remember right, it was a church they were able to use. And that was probably Thursday night because that was the night that it wasn't being used.
There's no services on Thursday night.
Yeah.
I have rising equipment costs. So getting good radios is expensive. High quality gear remains expensive. Open source STRs and kits offer some relief. And we talked about that earlier. I mean, if you want to do QRP and maybe use an amp or something like that to get some higher wattage output and stuff like that, there are kit builds that you can do and you can get on there. I think it's intimidating, though, to expect somebody to say, hey, I want to become a ham radio operator and I'm going to build my own radio. And I know there's folks out there that do that. But most of the time, what I see is a guy 40 to 50 years old, potentially going through his midlife crisis, looking to get into a new hobby, buying a radio like a 7300 or a 710 or a DX10 because they're awesome, right? They look cool. They have they're flashy. They're reasonably affordable, and then they want to buy an antenna off the shelf and they want to go to the park and be cool. A lot of people are not interested in learning how to build a kit. A lot of people have never soldered anything in their lives. A lot of people have no electronics experience. So I think that's a tall order to expect somebody to do that, but some do, but I don't think it's the norm.
I tell you what, one of the cheapest radios and best radios you can buy is that Hermes Light. That thing,
yeah.
It doesn't do 6 meters, which is I was a little upset with about that, but that's okay. But
you got to be pretty PC literate to pull that thing off.
Well, I was able to do it, but I had my buddy Don. Luckily, Don saved me a bunch of times on getting mine set up. But
well, I can tell you, I monitor different communities, right, to see what kind of questions people ask and stuff like that. I think that the Hermes Light probably gets more questions asked there than any of the other ones.
For what, under $400? It's what, $350 or something like that. If
I mean, it's a great price. It's a great radio, but people are attacking right on there, like that Neptune amp, which is $400 right on it.
Right, costs as much as the radio, but that radio is. I'll tell you what, I've used it. I've used that, and I've also used the ELAD. The ELAD's really good too, but it's not $400. It's $1,000 or $1,200.
Yeah.
little easier
Well,
to
Chris
use.
Bricker's on there. He's saying they need more videos teaching people to solder. The kits are way easy to build today. Um, they are easier to build. And the thing I'm going to say about it though is that I'm not going to do any videos because I'm not the world's best solderer. I just admit that.
Mhm.
The other one is that there are a couple kind of videos that will guarantee to get you hate. Soldering video and a crimping video are probably the top two. It brings the kooks and the crazies out of the woodwork to tell you that you did it wrong and their way is the only right way. It's really just
Right.
not worth putting one of those videos out.
Well, you know, I got some guy got on me one time because I was cheating a little bit, but I soldered and I know how to solder and I know when solder flows through, right? Because you can do it from the top, but you just have to.
Mm.
Well, you're supposed to suck it from the bottom, right? You heat the
Mhm.
bottom and suck it through. But if you know what you're doing, you can still solder not doing that and still know that you got a good solder.
So, like,
Yeah.
I was soldering the connector on the end of a piece of effing speaker wire for
Right.
an antenna. And some guy's like, "That's never gonna last. It's never." And I'm like, "Dude, just take your shit and go. I don't care if it doesn't
Right.
last." You know what I mean? If I'll get I'll break out the piggy bank and I'll put another piece of speaker wire, which what's up, Bob? That's only a few dollars. You know what I mean? It's like I don't
Right.
care.
Right.
I don't
Elbow
care.
officer. Yeah. Well, and there's always that thing about crimping and versus soldering or vice versa. And
Yeah, yeah.
I do both. I think both work great.
Oh, just do what do what makes you happy.
Mhm.
They're making fun of the way I talk. Solder. That's right. Yeah, yeah, Marvin. Uh, you're right. It or hurts him too. Hurts is saying it's a religion to some people. Lee saying he's glad there's no more Saturday cars, so I can go to my monthly club breakfast meeting without a conflict of mind. I got to tell you, man. Last Saturday I was so bored I didn't know what to do, and I was like, we should.
I know it's. I got ready tonight. And I'm like, man, it's been so long since I streamed. I don't remember. Maybe I forgot how. You know.
Well, I was gonna be like, hey Chuck, you want to stream? I got nothing to do.
So you guys might see us on Saturday every once in a while. Anyhow,
Yeah.
it just won't. It won't be probably every week. Like this weekend, I'm out of town on Saturday, so I'm going to the lake.
So anyhow, with the last thing I have on here is escalating RF interference is one of our challenges that we're going to continue to face. You have everybody putting up solar panels, inverters, switching power supplies, LED lights, broadband modems.
Mhm.
Um, so I think that within the next 5 years and even beyond that, weak signal modes, things that can detect a signal close to the noise floor, even below the noise floor, are going to be more and more prevalent. They're going to be more and more. You're going to see them more and more. I guess as I'm trying to say that.
Right.
Um, and I think that that's also helping with the resurgence in CW. Right, CW all of a sudden seems like it's very cool, and everybody's trying to use that. And I'm not going to call CW a weak signal mode, but it uses less and less bandwidth. Right, so if you transmit a fat signal with 100 watts and you transmit a skinny signal with 100 watts, your skinny signal is going to go further. And the digital modes and CW use a skinnier signal. Now, what's really nice about the digital modes is that they bake a lot of error checking into the signal that they send. So the receiving, as it decodes it, will be able to use the error checking to make sure that they're getting the right signal, and that makes that a little bit more reliable. And when everybody's operating a higher noise floor, things like I know people who can't operate single sideband, but they can operate FT8 at their QTH, and that's what they're doing, and they're having fun at it, right? And so,
Mhm.
God
Whatever
bless
you
them
have
and have
fun at.
fun and get after it.
Yeah, Kathy's saying she misses Saturdays too already.
Well, the first Saturday that we didn't do it, I was slept in and got up, ate a giant breakfast, laid on the couch. I loved it. The next Saturday, I'm like, I felt like I needed to have something to do. It's like,
Look at Shooter's got it. She gets Chuck out of her way. She's usually in bed still when I start my streaming, so
yeah, but then she
I'm
gets
not.
up,
I'm
goes to
not
have
help.
her coffee, sit out on the
Yeah,
back
she
porch.
has her Coke for the morning.
It's hilarious.
Her zero.
That's what I do. I get up in the morning, I go downstairs, take my medicine, and
Yep.
pound down the Coke Zero.
Pound it, man.
All right, so growth areas where ham radio is expanding. We talked a lot about digital HF modes. And I'm not going to go through that too much more. Remote station operation. It seems like that's more and more an expectation for your
That's
ham radios.
for new radios. That's like everybody wants to. Well, can you remote that easy? You know, and I guess everything can kind of be remoted, right? Didn't Jim remote one of his older radios one time?
Well, there's a couple different things. Like there's
Oh, he's been
remoting a
doing it.
computer that's controlling your
Mhm.
radio, and then there's actually remoting your radio. So they're two different things. Now, what people can do is they can remote control a computer that's controlling an older radio, and Jim's done that. But also, he can remote control his Flex, and that's gotten to be a much more popular thing. And people are like, "What innovations have been in the last 20 years?" 20 years ago, ain't nobody remote controlling their radio station. I can tell you that.
No, and Flex, I guess, from what I understand, of all the SDR type radios, is probably the easiest to actually remote. I think you can do it with other ones like Anons and those things, and probably the
Mhm.
Hermes, but it probably takes a little bit more to do it.
Well, like if you want to remote control your Hermes, you got to remote control the computer that's controlling your Hermes, which is still
Right.
remote control and it's still cool. I'm definitely not hating on it, but
Mhm.
I think that you're going to see more direct radio control. But who knows? I could be wrong. Advanced UHF and VHF and satellite. I think you're going to see more innovation there. Satellite seems like it's getting super popular. Like if you
Yeah.
just go into YouTube videos today, you'll see tons of people posting satellite stuff. 5 years ago you saw some of it. 10 years ago you didn't see any of it. Not that people weren't doing it back then, and we love them. God bless them. But it's something that's gotten more and more prolific. And digital voice. The one big thing about digital voice is it uses less spectrum. So when you have a finite area, right, your 2 meter band, for example, there's only so much of it, and
Hmm.
you can't get out the band stretcher and stretch the band any bigger. So any consolidation that you can do with signal preservation or spectrum preservation is going to be a bigger and bigger thing, and digital does that quite well. So I expect to see that as a particular growth area. And then these hybrid emergency networks like Arden, WinLink, Meshtastic type things. I
Hmm.
think you're going to see more distributed networks that are less grid reliant for emergency communications groups, um, which makes sense, right? I mean, why wouldn't you?
Right. So the Mistastic stuff is it still intrigues me a little bit, and just trying to figure out how to make contacts and get your distance up. Like I get guys that are 80 miles away all the time. I just can't get out of here. But the guy that I made the long distance with my little Yagi,
Mhm.
I gave him some I gave him the STL for printing that. He printed out. He's going to print a couple of them. He's going to start shooting my direction.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So
See, y'all
let's
be
see what
going
we can.
Yagi to Yagi, son.
Yagi, yeah. But he's always talked about coming down. He builds a bunch of the Mastastic stuff that have the solar and all that stuff, you know. And we're
Mhm.
talking about designing something up for that too, and to make it easier to build them and have the solar built on. And he's been talking about coming down here, and we're practicing. I took my antenna out the other day, but I didn't take it to a good location, and was seeing if I could. The one it's not a Yagi. It looks like a off center fed dipole.
Mhm.
It's supposed to be really good, according to the place I got it from, the guy that designed it up, and I just put my own little twist on it, made it a little bit easier and cheaper to build.
Why would you need
And
an all center fed dipole? It's not like you're looking for multi-band operation.
well, it looks like one. I'm not saying it is. You called it that. You're the one that called it that.
Oh, I was
This
just calling it
this
that to get you worked up.
see, there it is. If you want to put it up, I don't know if I get it in the screen, but
Let's see if we can do that.
this is the top over here. No, this is the top over here, and it says like this. I just figured it would. But I built a little thing for it so you can mount it. Um, it's got places where you can put. If you look here, it's got like like I think an inch and a half, quarter-inch U
Mhm.
bolt to attach it. And I just prettied it up the last time I print one. When I printed it the last time, I just kind of cleaned up my original one. But I'm going to take
Yeah,
it.
I'm
I'm
gonna
going to
need
take
your
it
help.
out.
'Cause I gotta finagle something. I want to take my tripod
Mhm.
and I want to make it so I can mount that Yagi that they sent me on that tripod. So I might need
Oh,
your
that should
help
be
figure.
pretty easy, actually.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be too bad, but
The one
I
thing
just
they didn't do
haven't
on
done
that,
that.
if I remember right, they didn't drill. Well, they drilled. Okay, they drilled it for vertical, but they didn't drill it for like SSB. So horizontal.
Yeah.
It only goes the one way, but you can. It would be easy to fix. You just drill holes
I
on
have to, I have
the
to, I
side.
haven't taken that much of a look at it, but for me, I think vertical is going to be fine. And I actually
Right.
kind of wish it was. I kind of wish it was GMRS. Not that I'm going to be doing GMRS.
What is GMRS? Is it lower or higher?
It's higher. It's like four something. It's like 450,
So
470 something.
you can make it do that. You just adjust it. And
We'll see.
I would just adjust the driven unit.
We'll
And
mess with
probably
it. And
just because it'd be shorter, right? No.
I saw Kathy talking about. She said she could never get into coffee. That's why she drinks Coke. I don't like coffee either.
Yeah, she's not a coffee person.
But I don't drink it because I think it's an artifact of colonialization and the exploitation of indigenous peoples, and I'm not going to support that industry.
So what's Don trying to sell, Kathy? Let's see. What was he talking about up here? I missed it.
I don't know, but I would cut that off. I'd nip that in the bud.
No. Oh, Don says Kathy try Coke Zero Orange Cream is the best.
You know, I had one of those, and it wasn't bad. But
Is that like cream soda but orange flavored?
yeah, I was at a restaurant and they had a Coke machine, and then you could go up and you could pick whichever flavor that you wanted.
Right.
And this guy
Those
was
are
there, and he's like,
cool.
"Dude, you got to do the orange cream. It's the best." And so I did it, and it was pretty good. But I don't drink coffee because I don't like drinking hot drinks. You know, like I like drinking cold
You
drinks. I
can
don't like
drink.
drinking hot drinks.
They make cold coffee. You know, that's a thing now.
Hey, what's the point, right? Let's drink a Coke.
Well, it's just kind of. You said you didn't like hot, so I mean,
Yeah, but back when I was a kid, they didn't have cold
Mar-
coffee. They only had hot coffee. Cold
That's right.
coffee's a new thing. That's a millennial thing.
Marvin's into Pepsi. I'm not a Pepsi guy. If they,
Yeah, I don't like Pepsi either.
If I say Coke and they say, "Is Pepsi okay?" I go, "Give me a root beer."
Yeah, I don't. Mountain Dew, I
I don't
think
care who makes the root beer, but
you can get a Mountain
well, I
Dew in
do.
Pepsi places.
Yeah, you should drink Mountain Dew.
I love Mountain Dew.
It's not bad.
Try and drink less of it because I think it'll put you in the early grave.
It has a lot of caffeine in it.
It does. Plus, it's got like this crazy orange,
A lot of
yellow
sugar.
dye or something like that that's banned in every country but America. I guess so we can be free to drink that.
I guess.
But they're like, you know, it make your eyes glow red or something. I don't know. You're not supposed to drink it. So I want to talk a little bit about propagation, and we're at the peak, starting to go down the other side of Solar 25, which has been really chaotic, but it's been a really exciting time to be an amateur radio operator. I think you're going to continue to see peaks. They're predicted 10 to 20 bands and everything in between through 2027, and I think we'll start to see some of the dying off. So there's still a lot of time to have some fun there if you're not. And then I also put in there about CW and digital advantage because they can excel at a time like this, right? When the solar peak is there, low power, weak signal, you can get your signals out and go pretty dang on far and have a good time with it. Now, what's going to be interesting, I don't know what the next solar cycle looks like. I have not looked into that or researched it. I know it's not going to be as good as 25, and I expect it to be a pretty low cycle, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
I felt bad for Josh went over to Hawaii, and I've had this.
In the middle of that solar storm.
Yeah. And he's in the middle of the solar storm, and he was like, he goes, "There's just nothing on the bands." He goes, the scopes. He's got his little the 599 or whatever it is, you know, and he goes, "There's nothing on the scope at all." And he made a couple contacts. He ended up using his HT and making a couple contacts, but I've had that. I've been to Hawaii and I've had problems. This I didn't have the solar problem that he was having, but making contact, I think it's got something to do with time of day also.
It's that volcanic soul. It's the soul.
Yeah. So I've had a little problems, and he took that radio, but I think he did have an amp. I don't know how much his amp put out, so he wasn't. I don't know if he was doing 100 watts all the time, but
Yeah, I would only. The thing is that you have to consider not the time of day there, but the time of day
right here,
here. And the thing
right?
is he probably should have been more concerned about. And I don't know what he was doing, so I'm not judging, but um, probably work in Asia as opposed to North
He
America would
he
be.
he was looking at Japan and also in he was seeing some VK and no New
Mhm.
Zealand at the time, but I think it was Australia and Japan were active. He was trying even FT8 for POTA. I think he was doing POTA and he was doing some FT because the sodas over there. Oh my God! It's like how do you get to these places? It's like and you look and nobody's ever activated them. There's a reason. Sodas in Hawaii are other than a few places are tough.
Well, the other thing is like I'm not real sure where. Last time I checked, I think Hawaii's north of the equator, and halfway around the world along the equator is different than halfway along the world from northern hemisphere to southern hemisphere. And so the tilt of the disk and the way that the sun rays are coming in and energizing the ionosphere can make contacting between the northern and southern hemisphere much
Hmm.
much more difficult than going um, along the line of the equator.
He was
So that's
seeing
something that needs to be
California.
considered as well.
He was seeing California, a little bit of Oregon, I think, but other than that, he wasn't seeing a whole lot. Now, when I go over next time, depending on which island, I'm looking up
Yeah,
Hamstick
I'm
Eric,
sure he's a lot of fun to hang out with
because
and do the ham
he
stuff.
knows when to do activations.
Well,
And
he's a great guy, right? I mean,
yeah,
and
oh yeah,
he's
that'll be
quite
fun. It'll be
experienced.
fun hanging with that guy.
Well, we hung out with him at Dayton 2 years ago.
Mhm.
I think like
And
I went busting into his mobile ham station. He had like that
yeah,
Sprinter van or whatever. I think I woke him up or
that
he was
thing
just
was
getting up or
it
something
was
like that.
pretty nice. That was a
I
nice
just
van.
just went and opened the doors like, hey,
He's used
but
a couple of our antennas over there and just I
killed it.
mean, I'm like, "Who is that?" I go, "Oh, that's Eric." But, some of the times he was shooting over me.
Yeah.
I mean, I was barely hearing him, but man, he had
Well,
huge
he's got like
silos.
that
He was
like
using
19 element Yagi that he uses and stuff like that.
well, not he was using the Mercury or the Mercury, I think, was one of the ones he was using. He was just killing it. And one time, I think he was only using 10 or 20 watts or something like that. He was just he's sold. There we go.
Yeah, that's all the
The
drama.
future of radios right there. Future of radios right
So
there.
mine's here. So I got it 2 days ago, I think. And I was playing with it and I text Chuck and I'm like, the dang RF gain's backwards, son. It does work
And my
differently than
answer
my ICO.
my answer, no, icon's just backwards.
Yeah.
It is kind of weird because when you turn the RF gain down, the SWR meter goes up. And what I was told, you take it to the noise, and that's where you stop.
Yeah. So here's what's crazy is that there are some specific charging characteristics for the battery. Like I think you need 15 volts to charge the battery. Um,
I think that's
it-
from the on one of the ports though, right?
yeah, I so
One of the ports was different, and it needed different voltage.
so it was like 15 volts, 45 watts, which kind of sucks, right? Because I would like to be able to just plug that into 5-volt USB, but
Well, I
USB,
think you can. There's like 3 ports on the damn thing, right?
yeah. So I
And I
still need
think
to look into that. But I did have a
watch my
15
video.
volt. I have a 15-volt charger, and well, I checked the manual, but I had a 15-volt charger, and I plugged it into it and started charging the battery. The battery takes 7 hours to charge.
It's a big battery though.
Yeah, it is. I'm not
It's
hating. I'm
way,
just saying.
way, way bigger than the 705
But
battery,
what's
but
crazy about this is that the
it's
day I
hungrier
got
too.
this, and I'm reading about this charging problem, a company reached out to me, and they have a high. They have a charger that does 15 volts.
Wow.
So they were like, Mr. Smoking Ape, are you interested? I was like, hot damn, you damn right, son. And they wanted to know what I intended to do with it. And I told them, and they're like, it sounds great to us.
Charge something.
So charge a radio.
I'm gonna charge a radio with it. What do
What
you
they
think
wanted
I'm
to
gonna
know is if
do?
the video would be specific to that, or I would if I would be using it in concert with other equipment. And I said, I'm going to be
Right,
using it to charge a radio. So hopefully it
right.
works out really well. But I think you're going to see more and more SDR. It's going to become more mainstream. Most modern rigs are going to be using the direct sampling ADCs, and they're going to all have pan adapters, and they're going to have digital filtering. I just think that that's the way that it's going to continue to evolve moving forward. Now, there's always going to be a segment of the population who likes the old school stuff. I do, and that's there. There are going to be those options, but more and more entry level, more and more affordable rigs are going to go this route.
Right.
I think AI integration, something that we talked about, which is that automatic noise reduction, and then potentially better real time CW decoding. It's funny because people are like, they'll hate on the radio because it doesn't decode CW. So I've been going out and watching videos for, CW decode with this radio, CW decode with that radio. It doesn't look like any of them do it well.
Oh yeah, they do. My
Well, I mean, maybe if
KX2
they're
is
getting machine
perfect.
generated, get CW,
No,
but
no. The problem with decoding is you have to match the speed to the person that's sending it. If you don't have it matched and you don't have a decent signal, it won't decode very well. The KX2 is automatic. You don't have to set the speed. It just
yeah,
does it on
I'll
its
take it
own.
back. I haven't watched any of the Elecraft stuff, so I'm sure they do it better.
That thing, but my 3000, as long as you get it, as long as you get close to the right speed, it will decode fine.
Well, I was talking to somebody. I don't know if talking is the right word, but he's like, "Hell, boy, my G90 do a CW decode. I get my decode on my G90 is only $400. What do I need?" It's one of those arguments about how the G90 is the best radio in the world. I love G90s. I'm on my second one. I'm not hating on it, but there's legitimate considerations when you're buying a G90, and I don't think it's the best radio in the world. I think it's the best $400 radio in the world. That's for sure.
Well,
But I go and I start looking at all these CW decode videos, and I don't see any of them that are decoding clean. None.
okay, I'll send you one.
I'm talking about a G90.
Oh, a G90. I didn't know they did that.
They do.
I've got one where I was down at the bay, and I was making a little fun of somebody, but I guess Yesu's and Elecrafts are the only ones that can decode. But at that time, I don't think the G90 was even out. But the guy he's sending code, and it's everything's perfect. It was that thing. I was impressed. I was like, wow, I didn't even set anything up. Well, I asked Wayne, I go, why does the KX2 decode so well? He goes, oh, it's automatic. I go, oh, so you don't have to set the speed. Like on my Yasu, I have to set the speed. And if you get it pretty close, it's not bad.
We're going to get cruising here because I think we're running out of time.
You're back in all-in-one QRP rigs.
Yeah, I think that's something that you're going to see more and more of. So you had the 705, and now you have the FT1XF. And I think that you're going to see more and more of that, where these radios are going to have tuners, they're going to have built-in batteries, they're going to GPS and Wi-Fi, internet addressable, whether it's Wi-Fi or some sort of plug that you can plug into something that's Wi-Fi enabled. And then also, what about like solar and field friendly? So like if I had a POTA rig, wouldn't it be nice if I could plug a solar panel into that? Right. So that way I don't have to carry an inverter. I can charge that battery directly. I don't have to charge a battery to charge a battery or any of that kind of stuff. I just, it seems like it makes a lot of sense. Right. And I do think that, right now QRP is super popular. You see a lot of people doing it, and that is part of the 25 cycle that's going to go on for another couple of years. It'll be interesting to see what happens as propagation shifts with the next solar cycle there.
Right. It starts going down or something, and it's like your 5 or 10 watts is not going to make you a lot of contacts. And sometimes it's tough. I mean, shoot, 100 watts some days is tough.
We'll talk a little bit about CW. We talked about the efficiency of the lighter signal and how it propagates further. Minimalist gear. A lot of the CW rigs are super tiny, size of a deck of cards. And then you have everybody in the world and their brother making CW keys like Chuck over here.
And mine are affordable.
Let me hold it up. Let me get you on the solar layout.
Let me give you two. This is my new one. Let me push it out so it goes in, and then I just did.
That's your backup to your backup.
This is the one I did, and I've changed a few things on this to make it a little bit. I added an extra bigger magnet and an extra magnet, so it sticks better than it used to. It was made to be handheld. This one's made to be handheld, but it also has. I have a magnet set up for that also. It clips on it. I'll show you here. Hang on. So it has this little deal here, which you just clip it in there, and now it's attached, and you can attach that to your radio. This has the bigger magnets too, and it's for some reason when you set it on the radio and it sits there for a few minutes, it sticks better. I don't know what the deal is with that.
It looks
I
nice
didn't know
though.
magnets did that. This thing's super smooth. I can't believe how good it is. It has a what's called a living hinge instead of a spring or magnets or anything. And
Yeah, I wonder about that.
It's really good.
I'm skeptical of everything, so like when I
You
hear
are.
these I'm like, I don't know about no living hinge, boy. That don't make no sense to me. Around here, they don't talk about that.
Well, I'll tell you what. I took one of them and bent it back about 50 times, and it's just like it was the first time I bent it out. So
Yeah, but you
you have
got
to
to do
bend
it
it out once.
You
Huh?
got to do it like 50 billion times to see if it's gonna. You need
Yeah.
to build a
Well,
machine to test it.
the thing is, it only moves like a 0.1 or 0.2 millimeters, right? So it hardly moves.
Yeah, I hear you.
That's what you got to look at. It's not like it's moving. I mean, I was bending them out. I don't think I have one here.
The last thing we have for CW is that there are a lot of really cool learning groups that are out there, like Long Island CW Club, CW Academy, LearnCWOnline.net
Mm-hmm.
is another one. And there's tons of people doing YouTube videos, making it more and more popular, making it more cool, and making it more mainstream. I've been practicing CW for a little while, and I'm terrible at it. But when I became a ham, I was zero interested in doing it. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
As a matter of fact, I would have probably become when my buddy, he called me up and he's like, "Hey, we should become ham radio operators. It'll be awesome, and we can buy Balfangs." And I'm like, "Son, I ain't trying to learn no CW." And he told me he's like, it's not a requirement anymore. So I was like, "All right, deal, I'll do it." But now I'm like, I wish I could do CW. I think it would be fun.
I think I'm gonna maybe join one of those CW clubs things and see if
Poor Kathy. First it's antennas, now it's CW keys. So it's gonna keep going.
Right. And we got to figure out what we're going to do with our antennas still. So
yeah, we got to figure that out. I got some ideas. All right, what will ham radio look like in 2030? So digital and remote control dominance. I think we covered that. More and more portable and resilient stuff in terms of like distributed networking. I think you're going to see more QRP as long as the solar cycle supports that. I think once that starts to become a little bit more difficult, you're going to see a lot of QRPers replace their radios with something a little bit more powerful or taking a smaller amps with them. And I think you're going to see more community evolution as opposed to the traditional ham club, people turning to things like online communities for support.
like coffee and ham radios.
Yeah. So anyhow, final thoughts. Ham radio is not dying. We started talking about how people say that for clicks earlier in the video. It's evolving. Ham radio is changing, and we need to be adaptable. We need to change with it, right? I think there's strength in community. We all ask each other questions all the time. We all get support from each other, and we build friendships. And I think that that's a really cool thing about it. And it's that openness to change and being able to reach out to other people and talk about it is kind of going to future-proof the hobby and hopefully get more people involved in it. And it'll just keep getting bigger and better.
Yep.
So that's my crystal ball was in the shop, so I didn't have the exact future of ham radio, but I think that that's what we're looking at.
I thought you would have had it all.
You got anything in closing you want to wrap up with, Chuck?
No, I just think I know everybody's talking how it's going down, but there's been, like you said, there's been so many improvements in radio. Radios are I had an older Kenwood. It was a great radio, but it's nothing compared to my 710.
Well, I think it's like any hobby. Like if you want to get into mountain biking or rock climbing, or you want to get into cooking, right? Or maybe you're going to get a new smoker, like I am next week, be delivered, and you want to do barbecue or anything like that. you get out what you put into it. Right. And then I think
Mhm.
that sometimes when you get these folks that complain about it and that it's dying and it's not evolving and it's not doing this and it's not doing that, maybe a little bit of self-reflection and looking internally is the right answer for that person. Just and say, hey, maybe the problem's not this, maybe the problem's me. Now, granted, there are challenges and limitations. We talked about some of them. It does seem that there's a lot of radios that could have better features, and it does seem that some radios come out with features that aren't fully engineered or baked, and it's a frustrating thing.
Mhm.
But you kind of got to go along to get along, right? And that's just kind of what I'm
And
thinking.
it and no radio, I don't care who makes it, is gonna be the perfect radio for everybody. Just like this new one that's come out with Yaesu. A lot of people don't
Right.
like it because it doesn't have full duplex, right? But
So buy a different radio that does,
yeah,
right? I
it's just
mean,
buy
that's just
something
a
that does. You can buy HTs that do that. Why do you need a
right,
$1,000 radio to do that?
right. Just
Guess what? An HT is way lighter than. Around any other radio. I mean, look for the old what's your little Yaesu? Those things are perfect for that. Two of
for
those.
which one?
The little 718. What was it? 818,
817.
817s, 818s.
I
Those
hate
things are
that
perfect for
radio.
that.
I hate it. I can't, I mean, I just hate it.
The
I
community
never
loves
liked
them
it.
for satellites, though.
I know,
'Cause
I know. And there's people who swear that they're best. I just never liked it ever. I think it was innovative for its time, and I think
yeah,
it's a really cool. A lot of concepts there are really cool that travel all the way up through the FTX1 or whatever. And but I just
I
hated
couldn't
that little
believe how
tiny
small
screen,
they
and I
were.
hated the menu. Yeah, I know. I just hated it. I
Yeah,
couldn't see the damn thing, and that's when I had good eyes. Well, I'll say better eyes. I won't say good eyes. All right, folks, we just hit the top of the hour. I'm going to go ahead and hit the button. Thank you, everybody, for being
thanks
here.
everybody
Totally
for being
appreciate
here.
it. And I'm
It was
hitting the
very
button now.
appreciative. You guys take it easy.